Terribly white. Coronation balcony. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Oh dear. One of the problems that has occurred with Harry's wife's behaviour is that while she suddenly decided, of course driven by her narcissism, that she was now a person of colour, after decades as identifying as Caucasian, she believed that she was advancing the rights and aspirations of people of colour, because her narcissism convinced her that was what she was doing. Instead, of course, it simply utilised the issue of race and colour as a device to get to the prime aims. So where she was repeatedly criticised for her behaviours, she cried, "You're treating me badly because you're being racist because of the colour of my skin," which was news to virtually everybody because, first of all, many people didn't even realise that she identified as being a person of colour. They thought she was white, possibly Hispanic at a push. Secondly, they were complaining about her behaviour and whether she was black, brown, yellow, green, purple, white with pink spots. It was the behaviour that mattered, not her skin colour. Of course, she would often fall into the position of alleging that it was as a consequence of unconscious bias. But the fact is, in the early days, she repeatedly played the race card by suggesting that anybody that criticised her was doing so because they were a racist, that they were haters. This attitude percolated into the rabid members of the Sussex Squad, who bandied the accusation of racism around, throwing it around like confetti at a wedding, without actually understanding the evidence. But what it also started to do was, rather than actually advance the cause of black people, or brown people, or yellow people, or whatever, people of colour. Because remember, it was nothing to do with that. Although Harry's wife believed it because her narcissism caused her to believe it, her narcissism was just using the issue of colour to help her nullify threats to control, assert control over other people by engendering sympathy and support, allowing her to draw fuel and access character traits and residual benefits. It wasn't because she genuinely cared. It wasn't because she was interested in advancing the rights of people of colour. For instance, how many relationships has she had with a person of colour? None. She's not interested. But her narcissism says, use that because it'll help you get to the prime aims. In the same way that some narcissists would use sex. Some would use their charm and charisma. Others would use a particular disadvantage that they had. Others would use their sexual orientation, their sexuality. The narcissism will use whatever it can lay its hands on, whether something actual genuine about someone or even made up, to get to the prime aims. And thus with Harry's wife it was exactly the same. It caused her to use the issue of race to get to the prime aim. Thus, not only was she not genuinely supportive of the rights and desires and needs of people of colour, her behaviour then started to actually prejudice them. Why? Because people saw through her. They saw her actual behaviour and they saw what she was doing and said, this is nothing to do with you being a person of colour. It's everything to do with the fact that you're unpleasant and you're a liar and you're a grifter and you're a cheat and you're a bully. That's what I'm complaining about. She, of course, would run away shrieking, it's bullying because I'm a person of colour, it's racism. And narcissism again utilising that. But people saw through her behaviour. And therefore, whenever she cried race, people basically said, not having it. No, no, no. And the problem is that when you get individuals, these narcissists, these ones with a particularly strong victim mentality who engage in that behaviour, they then start to make it extremely difficult for those who are genuinely being prejudiced to be taken seriously. It also means that certain individuals follow the lead by virtue of herd mentality of these narcissists so that they start to cry foul in relation to race when there's absolutely no need to do so. Those individuals may also be narcissists as well, but often they're not. Sometimes they're even empathic individuals who are misled by the behaviour of the narcissist, so that they engage in behaviours of crying foul in relation to race or whatever it might be, thus setting back the actual needs of that group even further and causing many people to start to have fatigue for the causes that these individuals are meant to be supporting. And this is precisely what has happened as a consequence of Harry's wife's repeated beating of the race drum, that it has caused people to think it's nothing to do with race when it comes to you. I'm sick and tired of people playing the race card, and I'm sick and tired of other people jumping on the bandwagon that you have created in relation to race. And thus, the Mail Online, through Milo Pope, reports that ITV is hit with 4,165 Ofcom complaints after Bridgerton star Adjoa Andoh called the Buckingham Palace balcony terribly white, making it the most complained about moment of the year so far. Well, this behaviour is clearly being influenced by the conduct of Harry's wife, making race an issue within the royal family. But of course it's going to be terribly white because the family is white. Charles is white because his mum and dad were white. And so is his brother and his sister and his other brother. And those white people married other white people, thus they had white children. So the grandchildren and the nieces and the nephews are all white. Nobody would be surprised, unless they're stupid, to see so many white families in the British royal family, because it's a white family. In the same way, you would not be surprised to see an absence of white faces in a black royal family that would exist in Africa. In a particular African country where the population is predominantly black and their royal family is black, you wouldn't go, "Oh, it's terribly black out there, isn't it?" Because, first of all, you wouldn't be so stupid as to make such a comment like that, because it's obvious it's going to be black, because it's all a black family. But this kind of behaviour with regard to the British royal family has been precipitated by the way that Harry's wife has carried on. The article continues to tell us that ITV has been hit with 4,165 Ofcom complaints after Bridgerton star Adjoa Andoh prompted fury by calling the Buckingham Palace balcony terribly white, making it the most complained about moment of the year. The actress, who appeared as a guest during ITV's coverage of King Charles III's coronation, made the comment when the royals were standing on the Buckingham Palace balcony to watch the traditional red arrows fly past. Miss Andoh, 60, who plays Lady Agatha Danbury in the Netflix show, said, "Looking at all those young people, there is a bit of me that has gone from the rich diversity of the Abbey to the terribly white balcony. I'm very struck by that. I'm also looking at these younger generations and thinking, what are the nuances that they will inhabit when they grow?" But her comments were met with a fierce backlash among disappointed viewers who pledged to report it to the watchdog. The actress backtracked the following day, insisting in a BBC interview that she'd meant no offence. But that too sparked another furious response from listeners who criticised the presenter for failing to challenge her views. Instead, Radio 4 host Paddy O'Connell told Miss Andoh she had nothing to apologise for. Ofcom has now received a staggering 4,165 complaints, making it the most complained about moment this year. It has attracted almost double the amount of complaints made after a segment on the Jeremy Vine show about junior doctors. Numerous people took to Twitter to voice their outrage. Of course they would, with one commenter slamming her comments as ridiculous and asking, how can she get away with that? Any white person would have to make a public apology. Miss Andoh's comments prompted a major backlash on social media, with one Twitter user asking, why is it okay to dismiss a white family for being white? A second said, I'm disappointed in Adjoa Andoh. The hashtag Coronation focused on promoting positive race relations and representing modern Britain. There were many people from diverse backgrounds with prominent positions yesterday, and yet Adua chose to discriminate with her divisive comment. And a third added, why make such an appalling white balcony comment? Appalling. Ando later appeared on BBC Radio 4 to clarify what she meant and apologise. She said, I think I upset a few people yesterday. I was talking about the day and how marvellous it was, and then suddenly looking at the balcony at the end and going, oh, it's so white, because the day had been so mixed, and I didn't mean to upset anybody. Whilst this might be the case, this is what is being encouraged by Harry's wife's behaviour. This is what she has generated, with people making race an issue where it ought not to be. This is the culture that she has encouraged and created, and doubtless she would be sniggering to herself as a consequence of these observations, because, of course, once again, although she's always identified as being Caucasian, her narcissism will cause her to use the issue of race whenever it possibly can. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.